Today we with us again part of the experts that have been able to join us from different countries. They are film experts, others are consultants, of course, in the film industry. Before I invite them to come and start their session, I want to just welcome them to have a seat. I will not say their names. I want you to sit in the middle there. Chike. Where I've not introduced any of their names, some names are beautifully announced, so I don't want to make errors when I'm pronouncing them. So they'll be able to tell you their names. So there are 5 experts. So I'll allow. Yes. So I'll invite the representative of the UCC ED to be able to open up the workshop. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know about the 5 experts. The 5th will put a disclaimer. I work for Uganda Communications Commission. I don't know whether I qualify to be an expert. Maybe after 10 years, I've gained enough experience to be called an expert. But it's also good to hear yourself being called an expert. Welcome to today's workshop. We're going to be discussing the potential of the film industry in Uganda after 10 years. The beauty is most of the 2 gentlemen and the 2 ladies you see seated in front of you have had an opportunity to evaluate your projects over 2, 3, sometimes 4 years. So they have been able to see the tremendous progress you have made in terms of the technical, script writing, directing, lighting, etc. For me, who was here from the start in 2013, I'm actually very happy now that all of you heeded the message, that your stories were good, we're lacking on the technicalities. And I'm happy, and I'll ask you to clap for yourselves that you have made tremendous strides in solving and working on the technical weaknesses that these ladies and gentlemen have told you over time where you need to improve. Today we have Mr. Chike Nofia. He's from the United States of America, but I think he's of Nigerian descent. He will be moderating today's session. We have Mr. Fabian Lojede. He is from South Africa. He will also be a panelist. We have Miss Anna Belen Asfora, all the way from Canada, and Miss Njochi Muhoho from our neighbor Kenya. She happened to be the chief judge last year. These people agreed to take time out of their busy schedule to share with you the progress and the potential of the film industry. I'll ask you to pay keen attention, and please, this is a conversation. Let us share, let us be willing to learn, let us open our minds, let us hear from the experts. So today, my role is very brief. I wanted to introduce that. I think I will ask Leonard if he needs to introduce so that people know each other, or we are time bad and we can go straight to the moderation bit.
Thank you, Mr. Mehdi, our head of film. You're an expert, so you're not accepting it. Yeah, so I would want to hand over the moderation to Mr. Chike and be able to guide us on whatever. He will guide us on how he wants it to happen. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Good morning, and it looks like a lot of us are shy, and I don't know why people in film business should be shy. We have some empty seats in the front. So if you're truly in the film industry, you need to come take your place. You know, if you don't say here I am, no one will say there you are. when there is a seat at the table, claim the seat, because you never know what the opportunity might hold. And I say that because as Africans, and let's not lose that, because it is our African value of respect, of being able to honor space when we're in spaces. But once you're invited and given permission to take space, then stand tall and answer your name and take your space. Because you're also an African prince, a princess, a king, a queen in your body. And that is very important, especially as you begin to interact with the international communities. You don't want to come in droop, with your shoulders down and your head down and all of that. You want to be able to stand up straight and look at people, and tell them who you are, in your glory, and not be apologetic about it. And don't let them make you feel less than either. And so this morning we are going to talk about the potential and the potential of the film industry in this wonderful country, and an amazing, ensemble of experts are here to share with you some of their things. And so I will, start with Anna. Let me start with you. To basically, when I looked at that topic, I think oftentimes it's easy to say, oh yeah, the potential lies in this type of film coming out of Uganda and this and that. But it's important for us to understand when we say the potential of the film industry, that we do not only limit that to the specificity of films or specific films that are being made, but to look at the potential of this industry in terms of human development, the potential of this industry in economic development of the nation, the potential of this industry in civic participation and civic development of this country. And so any slice of this that you want to comment on, let's just do a brief run through, a minute or two each, and then we come back and take it. Just to pick any slice that you would like to comment on, and then you pass it on.
Hello. Well, it's pretty interesting because this is my second year actually as a juror in the festival. So I've been learning from you all in terms of the narratives and the stories, and mostly the background of the African community. So for me, that I come originally from Chile, South America, and I'm in Canada in another industry that is kind of like super well development. I've lived through kind of like my internal development as a filmmaker for sure, but also in two different industries. And when I see Ugandan films, I can see so much potential, and that's why I say that I'm learning for you too, because the reason that I'm here is because I want to learn more about other cultures. So when I see the films that were in competition, and when I have had the opportunity to talk with a few of you too during the workshops, I can see that, of course, we have potential, but at the same time, we need to understand how to work with that potential and actually bring the narrative, but in a way that has to be authentic. Because I'm gonna do some references, but something that is kind of like very personal. But for example, in the Chilean industry, we used to make films like 20, 25 years ago, very close to what's kind of like the American system in terms of the stories, in terms of characters, narratives. And it wasn't until actually we learned about how we have our own voice in those films, that when actually our industry went to another level. And we are now, even of course we have some issues, we are now in a very well place internationally. But that's when actually we realize that our stories, we have our own, our own vision, our own, passion, and our own way to tell stories. So I think that in terms of like the potential, that there is the potential for sure, but we still need to. I think we still need, and I say we because I'm part of. I feel part now of the industry as well. We still need to figure it out how not to lose that authenticity, because that's actually what you guys want to bring to the international audience. That's why, that's what as a producer I want to see. That's actually why the audience goes to see the films, and also local like audiences, when they actually can relate with those stories. So yeah. Yep.
Good morning, everybody. I guess there's a lot to say in this very broad topic, and we still have time, so I'll just say a few introductory remarks. As your neighbor and somebody who's been in this country many, many times, both in my two careers, working for corporate Uganda in the early 90s as a management consultant. Yes, I'm not young. And just to be very specific, I'm 60 years old this year. And so I've seen the growth of Uganda. My first time in Uganda, there were still lots of bullet holes in buildings. And I still remember we had to get military escort from the airport. So I have seen Uganda, I've grown with Uganda. I've been here also as a local tourist. I put the word local because East Africa is one community. I've climbed your mountains. I've camped in your national parks. I've gone all the way to the border with Zaire. So I would say I know Uganda like my next door village, if you see what I mean. So my comments are coming from there. My comments will be coming from, I'm part of it. I'm not saying I know everything about Uganda. So I'm going to personalize things a little bit, knowing Uganda from corporate world, creative world, and the tourist world. Let me put it that way. Like I was telling her, every day in Nairobi, I eat a piece of Ugandan pineapple, because you've got the best fruits in Africa. Yeah. So the rich culture. I was so lucky yesterday. I met your Princess of Toro. Was it yesterday? As the driver was dropping me at the hotel, he said, "Oh, she's here, she's here." And I'm like, "Who?" And then he mentioned the name and said, "Who's that?" "Princess of Toro." And I said, "Fine, we go and talk to her." Very Kenyan attitude, you know. I just said, and I went to her and I said, "Hey, how are you, mom? Or how are you, princess?" You know, she talked to me in her language, and I said, "Oh, yeah, I'm from Kenya." And within a few minutes, she shared such jewel of knowledge about kingdoms in East Africa. And I thought, I want to spend a whole day with her, a whole day. And I was hit with the cultural history, what the colonials did to the kingdoms in Kenya, and how Uganda survived with its kingdoms. And I thought, I want a movie. I want a movie. Then I was looking at her age and I was thinking, what Ugandan is documenting this? She's old. She's a granary of experience, of knowledge. Who is tapping this? That thing is still eating my brains. I'll use that expression, yeah? And you were the only kingdoms that remained within East Africa. So tell us more. I'm talking of rich culture of Uganda. Having been your chief juror last year, I did say this on stage. Yes, you remember me as the lady in two clutches. The culture richness of Uganda, the beauty of Uganda your name, the Pearl of Africa, its significance. Imagine if you had a theme like movies on the theme of Pearl of Africa. Can you imagine how much you would do on that? Also, the modern Ugandan, the modern African, writing stories and having films about the modern Ugandan, the ones who never seen another president but your current one, and your many. Yes. So imagine when somebody is talking about this new Uganda compared to, your fathers, your grandfathers of the times. That's already a fascinating story to tell to the world. Yeah. I'm looking at your beautiful national parks, the Ruwenzoris. I call it, when I went to the Ruwenzoris, I kept saying I was in the land of guerrillas and gorillas because they were both there. The civil war was going on, and there was still plenty of gorillas. So there was guerrillas and gorillas. That's another theme altogether. And then also, each country has got its own identity. Yesterday on the women's panel, I guess I was again hard hitting, and I had a few ladies tell me, oh, you're so lucky, you ladies from Kenya, you can do X, Y, Z. I said, no, don't do it Kenyan way. Do it the Ugandan way. So lots of films showing us the Ugandan ways. I think I'll stop there for now.
Thank you so much. Thanks. And so we go to Fabian. Hello, everyone. I think I would like to talk to what I've seen as perhaps the potential of the industry. And the industry, you have to understand that the film industry has so many chains linked to it. It's not just about production in itself. If I start with production, just looking at just some of the films that we've watched, one of the things that struck me as almost a raw kind of talent that I've seen in Ugandan films, without money, without advanced training, that just sticks to me, is you seem to have a knack for action sequences. It's not perfect, don't get me wrong. It's not, it's far from perfect, but that's not when, for instance, one is casting. At times, you're not even looking for perfection. You're looking for that little spark that says, okay, this person can actually work for my film. And when I look at some of your action sequences and even some of your low budget films, there are two things that strike me. At times, it's very believable. Now that believability is not just the action sequence, it's also whoever edited it. Because action is one of the most difficult things to edit, right, and to make believable. And I say this not just having come here, but even in sitting in South Africa with some of our editors, when we look at things online, it's like, where did this come from on YouTube? What? And they don't have any money? Wow, if I bring this person here and train him, this guy could be a really good editor. Who directed this scene? They're not looking for Hollywood, that they're seeing the spark. So that's, for me, that shows that in that little clip that we see over there, and we start debating in the edit room that these guys really have talent. There are three things from a film industry point of view that I see there. Is the editor has potential, right? The guy who directed that sequence has potential in terms of, I'm just talking of action sequences now. And the models, or whether they're action guys, whoever did it, means that you have a potential one for developing a whole stunt industry, right? Which in Africa, we actually don't have. You have in South Africa to a certain degree, which even in South Africa is just recent that we started having professional black stuntmen.
that could actually do low. It's mostly white stuntmen because most of the films that require real professional stunts have been like your American films. So for me, that's an aspect of the industry that I feel should be looked at because it feels that your guys have a natural knack for that kind of sequence. On the other aspects of industry, I look at it that you have a huge potential in terms of locations. Now this is industry related, not necessarily about directing or acting. And I think the locations in itself haven't necessarily been marketed effectively as international film location shoots. I think there's a documentary I'm not sure if it's on Netflix. It's about or on Apple. I think it's narrated by Marshall Ali. It's about the something apes, and I think it was shot here in Uganda, right? It was shot here in Uganda. Okay. I wonder if, for instance, the Ugandan I know you don't have a film commission, but those involved in that, was any local film crew, for instance, involved in that shoot? Or is it something that you also heard about after the fact? That's a huge industry, right? So in South Africa as well, I keep using South because I see a lot of similarities in opportunities, right? There's a whole industry of wildlife productions. Some of the wildlife productions you see on BBC are shot in, safari parks in Kenya and South Africa. There's nothing that says that, that can't be a Ugandan doing documentaries that they can sell internationally around wildlife. You've got some of the most amazing wildlife here, all right? And parks. Again, I'm talking from an industry point of view. I know many of you might want to do fiction and drama, but if you're talking industry, you have to understand that the film industry is not just limited to drama series and feature films, and you have to look at it from a wide perspective. And those are some of the potentials that I've seen that I feel that are either not being tapped in by locals because we have this thing, especially young creatives. We want to do the red carpet because I can imagine going to do a documentary about gorillas is not going to be the most appealing things. But again, you need to understand: are you trying to tell stories? And there is a story there. There is a local story there. There is something that is indigenous to you, right? So ask yourself: are you in this as an industry person, or you're here to become a celebrity?
Well, thanks for that insight. So while I'm moderating, I also want to share with you, I run a film festival in California called the Silicon Valley African Film Festival. And I've been running this festival for 14 years. And in the course of those 14 years, we have seen an increased participation from Uganda. In the early days of the festival, perhaps we'll get 1 or 2 submissions from Uganda. But over the course of these years, we have seen a continued increase in the number of films that are submitted, up to the point that one of the films that won an award a few years ago was a film called Veronica's Wish. And that was a Ugandan film, and we celebrated the film in California. And the Nisha Kalima came all the way to California, and we put on a panel and celebrated Uganda. She carried the Ugandan flag and all of that stuff. And so there's stuff going on. We've also had Kizito. We've had his film in the festival. Leonard had a film in the festival, at IMA Festival last year, actually. And so I've seen stuff coming out of Uganda. There's also an aspect of the filmmaking business that I've seen, and I'm very encouraged by what I've seen, the animation industry. You have some amazing talents, in the animation space here in Uganda. And so we need to figure out a way to spotlight a lot of this stuff that is coming out of here. I did a workshop the other day on guilds and unions and associations, and I know that the industry here, not only in Uganda, for much of the African continent, we do not really have very professionalized guilds and all of that stuff. And I was telling them at the workshop, don't copy what is going on in America. Don't go and copy the bylaws of the Screen Actors Guild of America and come and just slap it here in Uganda and all of a sudden it will work. No, as the sister just said, make yours, make it inherently Ugandan. Always ask the question: is this good for us? Is this for us? How and when? So one of the things I want to move into right now in this conversation, which is phenomenal to just observe and see it happen in my observation, is the use of local language in Uganda. And I say that because the role of the film industry or the entertainment industry altogether in what we call language preservation is so very important. Because if you understand the history of colonialism on the African continent, if you understand that the way it was executed still lingers with us so many years after colonialism. It was executed in such a way that we were made to suppress our own languages. We are made to believe that success was approximated to the extent to which you talked like, looked like, ate like, dressed like, walked like, behaved like, and thought like a white person. And so if somebody hears you speaking your local language, they will immediately assume that you are uneducated. And in some secondary schools, some of us were victims of that. I don't know, some of you younger ones maybe not. Where in our secondary school, it was a punishable offense to actually speak vernacular. And so you grew up putting your nose in the air when you went home on holidays, sometimes even pretending like you don't even understand it anymore. And people applauded you for that. Oh, now he's liberated. Now he's better. That kind of mind game. And so that made us believe that ours is less than. That if it's white, it's all right, And the success will be the extent to which I can get close to that. And so we began to kill our own languages. And parents don't even allow their children in their own countries to speak their native languages. But I'm so fascinated with what is happening, particularly amongst the up-and-coming young creatives. In the music business, for instance, Nigerian musicians have turned it upside down. They're using vernacular and broken English to give the world mega blockbuster hits. The excitement I'm seeing in Uganda is also, I'm beginning to see Ugandan films in local languages. Your role in doing that is you're beginning to make it cool, so that those kids that can't speak it will turn to their parents and say, why can't I speak that? They will start demanding it and stop being ashamed of it. That's how to preserve this thing. Because there are so many African languages just because of this thing I told you that started getting listed on the UNESCO list of extinct languages in 50 years, because fewer and fewer people were seen speaking them. And the projection was that in 50 years, some of those languages will no longer be around. So when you begin to reclaim your identity, your culture, your language, you are not only entertaining the now, but what you're doing is you're preserving language that will outlive you and your children's children. So you have to see that potential, and you have to see that it's okay. It's okay. And I'm also noticing that sometimes when you have your actors move through space in local languages, you free them up. They're able to bring in some idioms and expressions and nuance of roles that is freeing to them, as opposed to having their minds think through the English language and then distort their comprehension and movement, in front of the camera. So I just want to encourage you and applaud you for the work that you're doing in that direction and the extent to which you can continue. And I'm not saying every film has to be in a local language, but why not mix it up if you can? I don't know how many of you that have conversations that you're just speaking English all the way through, or sometimes you don't, you mix it up. Remember the believability. I need to watch your film and just feel like I'm listening to somebody that, that is not on camera. So incorporate those things that can help, help your actors and people your talents move freely. It's a very, very liberating experience. And when you do that, you're preserving language, you're preserving your culture. The potential that this industry has in terms of economic development, can we comment on that, really? Because, anyway, I don't want to editorialize it, but you know what I mean. There's a potential, and we all oftentimes are treated as that, step kid, you just, as if the government is giving you money for charity. But I would like this panel of experts to talk more about the role of this industry in economic development. And so, Anna, let's start with you again.
Well, for me, I think that's a key point and actually through this potential of the industry, actually come to this challenge of really become an industry. I believe that it's kind of like, I always say this, it's a community of filmmakers, but it's also a collaboration between two sides. And in terms of the economic impact that the productions can have in a country is huge. But I realized that a lot of countries don't realize how that can really impact in the economic and development of a country. So, for instance, I'm just thinking about all the, not only the productions that come here because of, the beautiful locations that you guys have, or the talent, but also is also about the opportunities that can bring for the filmmakers, but also for the kind of like do this international, step forward. And when I was talking about collaboration, I mean that of course there is institutions that have to also, kind of like give you that punch, that help, that support in those senses. But at the same time, I'm also a believer that you, as a filmmaker, you're an entrepreneur. You're always alone in this. Because, as Chiki say, we are, the ones that it's almost out of pity that they give us money, right? It's like, yeah, let's do this. I mean, here you have some, hopefully you can make something good with it. But they don't see that value. And it's the value actually of preserve the culture. So it's not only the economical, I believe, it's also to preserve the history. And that's why I was hearing you before, and now literally I was completely ignorant about Africa. And I don't like that. Of course I don't like that. Thank you. No, but I'm telling you this because I was ignorant in terms of of things like religious and of course social issues, but I want, now that I've learned and I've seen your films, I want to know more and I want to see more, and this is me that I have actually the opportunity to be here and to see this. So imagine how many other people outside is there waiting for that. So just to sum up, I believe that is the thing that you go, internationally in that sense, but at the same time, you need that support from institutions, but also as a community of filmmakers to put things, on the table and say, hey, we need this. We need to organize. We need to, see a way to make this and to make this of industry and actually to make other people realize how big is the film in the economic impact of a country.
Where do I begin? Economic. You are a landlord country. I go back to history. One time an elder told me, you cannot know yourself until you know your history. So I go back to the East African Railways and you having to depend on the port of Mombasa. Let's begin there. Let's also talk about what is happening. Now I move first forward from the 1817 to today. Now, when we in Kenya start chopping each other and having battles and killing each other, your economy is affected. Because your trucks can't get from Mombasa to here. Think of that highway from Mombasa Highway, Naivasha Highway, all the way to the border. Malamba? Yes, that one. Yeah, think about that. Think of your revenue authority on one side of the lake and the other lake. Can some Ugandan make me a film about that island, fishing little island, with a few shacks of houses, and the two countries are still quarreling over it? Isn't that a fascinating story? I mean, it's a little piece of land on Lake Victoria. Tell me the story about your famous now patch. Tell me the story about your, I'll mispronounce it, your beautiful dress, basut, that one, the one the women wear with the slash. Yeah, which is so unique, so elegant. Basuti. Yes. So I knew it, yeah? So tell me more about that. How are your films showing off your fashion industry? Because even this topic is about the creative industry. How are we going back to what is happening today? Or now between you and us, we are using the Mombasa port and all the illegalities that are happening, the cars that are stolen from the UK, and they come through the port of Kenya to be so the high-end cars, the Range Rovers, hidden in trucks full of mattresses. I know that because I work for Kenya Revenue as well. Where is that story?
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Fabian, let's talk about, where you see economic development within the context of the group.
It is hard, globally, for most of the major film industries, definitely, in terms of economic development, they've got some kind of government backing, apart from Nigeria, but that there's no government backing. But I think what substitutes government backing in Nigeria is actually private investments. All right. So from an economic point of view, you have to find what's going to replace that, whether it's government backing in terms of infrastructure, in terms of funding, because at the end of the day, there has to be a pool that you can almost get funding from, right? I will use a Nigerian case study because I think it's the most appropriate for most African countries, where the government really, as somebody mentioned there, they tend to see funding the creative industry as charity, all right? So I think it's about going to the private sectors and finding a way to explain how you will contribute to helping them, get eyeballs for whatever it is that they're selling in your films. It doesn't necessarily mean running an ad in your film. It could mean making sure that you build stars, you build brands, right, in the creative industry, whether as directors, as actors, however you build these brands, and then try to sell those brands to the corporate bodies, all right, to be able to get them to invest in the film industry. Funding is key. There's no, in this industry, if you do not have funding, you can shoot a movie for anything, you can shoot for 10, you can shoot for 20, you can shoot for 100, the most important thing is what exactly are you getting out of it, all right? So I think the creative industry here, particularly if there are associations, you probably need to start seeing how you can create, I guess in the infrastructure, what they call it, is it private public partnership, PPP. You kind of need to devise ways. How do you get the private sector? All right, they're not going to do it for free as well. What do you give them in return? So you can't go there and say, come and invest in a film. And I think it has to be come and invest in the industry, not in a film. This is what the industry, can do, or this is what the industry can bring to the table in terms of where the youth, we can guarantee that X number of our youth do watch this type of content, and talk to bodies like where we are now, the UCC. You're not asking them for money. Don't go and ask for money. Come with solutions that that they can monetize one way or the other. And you have to do it as a group. Because if you continue to do it as individuals, one guy's film might be great, another guy's film might not be so great. But if you do it as an industry group, but it can't be something that you're going there to beg for money. You must be able to explain to them how this adds value. How does the industry add value? And I can assure you, by the time you get a couple of projects like this going, you get noticed by the government. The government will eventually be able to see what you're contributing, because it's not just about creating jobs. What happens when you create jobs for the youth, it has spillover effects. It helps reduce certain amounts of crime. Remember, right? Those jobs that are being created, they're using their money for health, right? That's lifting a burden off so many other aspects that the government itself would have to spend money on. These are the kind of conversations you need to have with institutions for them to understand that you are creating an economy that affects other economies within your sector, within the nation.
All right, thanks. And and just to button that up, when we talk about economic development and the role of the creative industry, Fabian, you just hinted on, in fact, you all just touched on, the various aspects of that. We must, as those in the industry, get our act together in order to make the case, and data is what drives the case. And so for those of you that, again, I go back to the workshop I had on guilds and associations and unions, it's important somehow to figure out how to report for all the films, and I imagine all the films that we just saw as the jury for this festival, if there is a way of finding out how many people were employed as actors, as light technicians, as this, that's important data. When you aggregate that, you can make a case to the government that in a space of 1 year, the Ugandan film industry employed 5,000 people. And then you can begin to imagine how many people depend on those 5,000 people. And what did those 5,000 people spend their money on? And then the productions themselves contracted people to do catering, contracted people to do this, transportation, to stay in hotels and all of those things. You have to collect that information to show funders, the government and companies and all of that, to say, listen, we are an economic engine. We are providing employment. We are generating revenue. We are doing this and all of that stuff. So it's important that, we begin to figure out a way to collect. Sorry, I don't know what story. Oh, right there. Okay. Yeah. So it's important that we figure out a way to collect data, because the role of the creative industry in economic development is already there, but we in the industry do not necessarily have data points or data sets to make our case. You are the storytellers. You are the primary people that sell this country to Ugandans, but also to those that are not Ugandans. The reason people talk about USA and Miami and Hollywood and all of that, where did they get that from? It's from what they see on television. So you are the ones that will promote tourism to this country. You are the ones that are the bridge between those that want to understand Uganda and see Uganda and connect with Uganda and those that are here serving Ugandans. You are the ones that play a role in turning the mirror to Ugandans to say, this is what we can be. It's not always about what is. The creatives are the ones that can take us to where we could be, that can help us, give us this aspirational intent and pull us up. If something is going wrong in society, you are the ones that can create a world that you want and show it to yourselves, and then begin to make people believe in that dream and that journey. And so your role in economic development is a very primary and fundamental role. Your role in nation building, your role in civic engagement, your role in all of these aspects that hold this country up. And you're already doing it. It's not a role that is going to start today because you came to this panel. You are already doing it. All I'm doing is to call it out to you, but somehow you need to begin to create the data sets that you can use to make that argument. The research already says that for every $1 that is put into the creative economy, $4 come back to the country. But you need to figure out where this data is for yourselves and be able to make the case so that we can stop this whole thing about whenever you are approaching government or even companies for that matter, they're treating you like you're a charity case, that like you're beggars. You're inviting them to invest in the future. You're inviting them, like Fabian said, invest in us and crime can drop. Youth can get employed. All of these things can happen. You can even help in literacy, and you can go on and on and on. And you don't have to change a thing. You're still doing what you're doing. But the data is there, but it's not being collected. All right, so now we're going to do a free, so any of you can jump in and make some comments. Let's take the next, say, 6 to 7 minutes for that. And then I need to open it up so that we can have an interaction. So you each get
Can
it.
I pick up from what
Yes,
you
yes,
just
go ahead.
said? How many here were born in the 60s? No, not this side of the table, please. That side of the table. Okay? All right. I'm taking you back. Today is Madaraka Day in Kenya when we became self-governant. And we had independence a year after you, just about exactly a year after you. I go back to you are where you came from. So a few challenges. In East Africa, all our laws of the land are based on the 1890-something British laws. And even the British changed theirs a long, long time ago. But we haven't changed much of ours. Okay? When each country gets an opportunity to do a new constitution, it's an opportunity to change that. So, let's talk about creative economy. No matter what we say here or what you intend to do, you will not get anywhere if you don't have the right economic environment, a conducive environment for business. That goes into laws of the land. How do you get laws of the land? I'm getting into governance now. You will not have any laws made into your favor or changed from those old British laws if you are not formed into official groups, the guilds, the associations, the federation. Government listens to groups of people, not individuals. Imagine in the creative industry, you were 1 million of you registered, and then you look for sponsorship from wherever, even from donors, to support and lobby for a creative economy bill. I've not heard of any creative economy bill in Uganda. The creative economy, which brings in all the creatives together. There is a move in the whole of developing world to have a creative economy bill. You take it to parliament, it's discussed, it's turned into an act. You need to be a force for that. So you make your creative industry a conducive environment for you to do films. You will get more international films coming in. And when international films come in, you get opportunity to improve your skills and exposure, and Uganda gets more in the map of the world. I think that was the main point I wanted to talk about, laws.
Okay, I'm gonna try to be brief. 2 minutes now. Well, as I said before, I've learned a lot in these 2 years that I've been able to watch all your films, and of course having conversations here with the fellow jurors as well. And in a couple of days, I will leave, and when I live with so much culture, in my thoughts, so much, like richness in stories, and I see how proud you guys are from your culture, from the roots, from your local languages. I mean, I have to say that sometimes I feel a little jealous, because as South Americans, we don't have that anymore, and it's sad, because we lose already that. We are already, we talk Spanish, but we don't have our local languages there. And you can see how communities are trying to, survive, and we hope that happens. But yes, I believe that you guys have so much to show to the world. And as all the fellow jurors here are saying, it's just community. That's the word. You guys have to, be united and go together and fight for this, because this is what actually you're gonna see in 20, 30, 40 years. This all is, archive for future generations. And I think we all need to also think about our roles as filmmakers, as these people that actually can make a change. And when you feel that responsibility in your hands, things change. So please keep united, keep showing us all your culture, or your locations, or your local communities, because I really don't want to see that disappear, as already my culture is happening.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure I have much to add other than, just to reiterate some of the things that, the other panelists have said. I think culture is really important. I think culture is going to be our greatest exports as Africans, because it is one of the things that obviously is dying out. I think as storytellers and as creatives, one of the things we must, as Africans and as Black people, is you guys should strengthen yourself not to be ashamed to be African in Africa. Because ironically, the one place you can be shamed for being African is actually in Africa by your fellow Africans. So, and it's your responsibility to change that, because that can only change through narrative.
All right. Okay, so we're going to toss it open. Thank you. We're going to engage you, because we wanted this to also be a conversation. We have a few more minutes, and so if you have a comment or a question, if it's a comment, just keep it to less than a minute, so that we don't, stay here forever. But if it's a question, go ahead, raise your hand, and they'll get a microphone to you. So any comments, any questions about what you've heard, or something that you still haven't heard that you would like You like one person or some of us to comment on?
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Denard Wogube, and I'm a director, also a VFX artist. So my question goes to the side of the economics of the industry, because we're talking about how to harness the potential of the creative industry, and I'm wondering, as Uganda, we have few literally countable cinemas. How can we? What would you advise on the method we can use to sell our movies out there, so that we can get that foreign income? Because if we were to sell them here, it's literally a very small. Currently, it's a small.
Market.
It's a small pool of sales. So how can we push our movies out there to have some of that foreign box office,
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's my question. Thank you.
Who wants to take that? Let's have one. Fabian? You want to? Okay. Talk to that.
So I think there are two things there that you've mentioned, international sales and lack of sales or distribution locally. All right. The first one, so the second one, in terms of local distribution and sales, I think first of all, as African markets, we need to understand the rudiments of content marketing. You first of all, like Chike once said, it's all based on data. Do you first of all have a database or somewhere you can go to even understand what is the value of the local market? That's one. Secondly, we've moved to an era where cinema distribution is not the only place for content sales. People are consuming content in this market. They just might not be consuming it at the cinema. Right? Now, yes, from a creative point of view, every creative wants to see their film on big screen. So, artistically, even me. But if you're talking business now, all right, your film doesn't always have to be consumed to be monetized at the cinema. We've moved to a digital era, right? There are foreign companies like your YouTube and the rest who are making money off Ugandan content. And who's watching that Ugandan content? It's not Americans, it's Ugandans. And it's being monetized. I have people who send me clips of Ugandan actresses and comedians and saying, maybe we should use this girl for something, man, she's good. Right? And you look at the views. Some of them are into hundreds of thousands of views, all online. So first of all, if it's monetization locally, you first of all need to remove the idea that if your content is not being watched internationally, you can't monetize it locally, because you can. It might not be the way you want your content to be seen, which is an artistic decision. But from a monetization point of view, there are ways to monetize your content locally. As a producer, it's left for you to analyze your local market. Where are the eyeballs? All right? Once again, it's something you have to do as a group. It's not something one of you can do. You have to do it as a group, and everybody can then benefit from that data. All right? On the international level, I think Chike will also talk more to that, but I think, yes, you've got the international streaming and what have you. It's a bit more dicey, obviously, because the international palette is slightly different. But what we do know that works is people are looking to discover new worlds, which means you have to be very authentic to yourself. All right? What I have found with most African markets is they don't want to be authentically African because locally it's not cool. Right? That's the truth. It's not cool. Everybody wants you to sound American or British or whatever, you know. But at the same time, when you take that content internationally, that's not what they want to see. They want to see you. Right? So I think on that level, international distribution, I think I'll let Chike talk more to that aspect.
Let me go back to national issues. First of all, even to make money internationally, can we have Ugandan eyes for Ugandan content? Can we start at home? And to start at home, it means the quality of your programs. That the quality is good enough so Ugandans are proudly watching Ugandans. We have the same problem even back at home and all that, so we are similar in that. So it's only you people who can drive for Ugandan eyes for Ugandan content. That's one. Two, the governance issues. Our guest, our sponsor, UCC, does three major roles. Licensing broadcasters. They do the role of a film commission. They do the role of classification. You have grown now as an industry. There's a need for separation. I said that during the last festival. And when those are separated, it's easier for each to then execute their role. So I'm getting the feeling this industry is growing bigger now, and it's only you people who can push for this, okay? Why do I say that? Content, local content on your local TV stations. Most Ugandans still watch the free-to-air. Now, when a law is made that 40-60% must be local content, you need a watchdog to be able to assess the broadcasters so that the 40-60%, I don't know what your law says, doesn't include news, political, current affairs, and all that. Because you include that, that already will be 80%. Okay? So it's only you people who can fix that. Okay? Then you need to start lobbying for rebates and incentives. You'll be able to take most of your films outside and having good quality when you have negotiated with your government for URA on incentives. Like you're given a tax waiver, equipment for the next 2 years, you're zero rated. Yeah? In Kenya, they kept zero rating us. We kept screaming, we want to be zero rated, which means you're not paying customs excise, you're not paying VAT, and then when every time we'd go back and ask how many producers brought in equipment to be zero. And understanding how the government operates, it goes with the financial year. So if you're zero rated, it is exactly for 12 months. Are you ready for it? How many of you filmmakers have taken a delegation to your Commissioner General of your URA? How many of you have gone to Treasury and say, here is our document asking for rebates and incentives? Just like you have a Women's Day where people go on holiday and we admire you for that and the men cook for the women. Is that the real thing? Because that's what we hear in Kenya. The same thing you must be doing for these things. And nobody's going to do it for you. You have to do it. So I'll summarize there. Separation of the roles of what UCC does will help you. Policies on the various things, monitoring the ratio of local content on your free-to-air. Also, when you have these organizations and the lobby groups and everything, you'll be able to insist on the foreigners who come to invest in your company in broadcasting to have the law of free, what do you call it? The term, I've forgotten the term, but they carry the free-to-air for free on their commercial broadcasting channels. There's a term for it. Does anybody remember the term? Okay. It's like your free to air is allowed to be, let's say, on the DSTV platform. Because even if you're paying for DSTV, when you don't pay and you're disconnected, you can still get the free to air. It's a very controversial law and it needs a lot of aggressiveness to get that. Yeah. So, and then finally, festival participation from a very national level, where you let's say your government insists on let's Cannes Festival, please can you profile Uganda this time? I know I was there in Cannes when Kenya was profiled, and I felt we got so much milestone. Where we failed is we didn't collect enough stories, ideas, and projects that were ongoing. We went there with posters of Out of Africa was done here, Teredera was done here, and everybody who visited, and I promise you I was manning the reception because those who were supposed to be there disappeared. Anyway, so there I was as a board member of Kenya Film Commission, and I'm manning the reception. And most of the queries that were asked, every time we'll be told, we know that. Tell us, what are you working on so we can do co-productions? I was so embarrassed. We went unprepared. So I'll stop there.
All right. Yeah, I know that I have some more comments, but we can talk about that. But I want to get more people involved. So let's. Good.
Thank you, sir. Sam Agatwishka. Most of the comments, most of the things you were telling us were more about documentaries and more of adventures. And to me, I was relating it to the one story I know about Western Uganda, whereby we have this place called Digongo. What happened there and how it happened, how many people were killed from there, and how the fights were. That's when I'm going to write about it. But currently, I'm having an adventure which is written. But I was looking into the amount that I can put in that film. It was too expensive. Like it cannot be easily made. Compared to these things, maybe you write a lot about love, or maybe these things of daily stuff. It can be easier, and the people will adopt quickly about those things than this thing of adventure. I don't know how you're going to help us do that. Like we can show people about what happened in our area and how people were doing their things, because it could be hard for us. Like for me, maybe not. I don't know if it's for everyone, but a lot of adventure is currently seated in my shelf, and I see that at least by the way, that's why I wrote it and kept it, because it was too hard to fund, and I thought that even the market locally would be not all that. So I don't know how you can help us through that. Thank you.
Well, first of all, you said you have a script. Did I understand that right? About a particular film project that you think is, because it's an adventure, it's going to take a lot of money. Do you have a budget for it already? Did you budget the film?
I wrote that script and tried to make some smaller budget about it, but I found that it was too costly. That's why I kept it and started writing other things of daily events, because they were relatively cheaper. It is about the kingdoms, how they were happening.
Right. I get that. I just wanted to be sure that I understood your question, that you have a script, you have a budget, but the budget is too expensive. I'm
not yet done with the budget, but the budget.
But you feel that you've put.
It is too expensive.
Okay. You see, that's the thing. I went to business school, and I'm in Silicon Valley. And when you come to my pitch session and I ask you the question I just asked you, and you tell me what you just told me, then I'll tell you to go and get ready. You see? Let's not approach, this is business, and I commend you for daring to take on that kind of, project, right? And I love you like a younger brother, but what I would tell you is, since you have a script, you have to do the next work and the next work and the next work, which means you break down the script and then you have to come out with what a budget is. That this, it doesn't matter, don't talk yourself down before you take your first step. That's the beautiful thing about babies, right? When you put a baby down here, they will start crawling. When you look away, you see them walking. You go, whoa, you know? And they will get up, they stumble, they fall. Guess what? They're getting up again. Otherwise, all of us will still be crawling today. They will fall, they will get up. They will fall, they will get up. And next time they're running. So this film business is driven by your numbers. And so, yes, the idea of the film, because you know, I mean, we're not kids. I agree with you. You know, you have this idea, you have this story, you have this script, and it looks like it's a big adventure, which it is. That means it's going to be a big budget film. Okay, that's understandable. But because the next question I was going to ask you was how much? But you've already told me that you have not finished the budget. So until you finish the budget, because what might be big to you might not be big to her. You see what I mean? Might not be big to me. Might be too big for me. Might be little for me. You don't know what that number is. So you must know what your numbers are and have them in a row. But even beyond that, now you have the script, you have the numbers as to what it's going to take. Then you also have to do the other homework. How do I get from here to there? So that if tomorrow Chike calls me and says, you know what, I will finance your film, but I'm also going to ask you, how am I getting my money back? I'm not the one. My job is to finance the film. Your job is to tell me how and when I'm going to get my money back. So you got to do, and if I'm asking you for documents from A to B or to A to Z, A to G, you better give me documents from A to Z, you know, because you have to be so passionate. You see, I love your passion about this story, because when you started talking about it, you came out into your element, which is great. Bro, take that passion all the way, you know, put the numbers together. Ask yourself, do the research. Who, where, how am I going to place this film? There is nothing that you create that is of good quality that doesn't have somebody waiting for it. You have to find it. But I don't want us to, go around in circles about this, but it's all about business. But numbers drive business. All right? You're not going to come and pitch me your story and tell me this is the best story since they made sliced bread, and you're passionate about it, and I start crying and I write my check. No, I might cry, but when I finish, I say, wow, I moved. Where are the numbers? And if you can't answer the question, next, I'll tell you, go prepare, come back. And you better be lucky that when you come back, I haven't given my money to somebody else. So you never get a second chance to make your first impression in this business. And so do the homework and do it over and over and over. Be over prepared. All right? And you're going to make that film. I know you are. You're very passionate. You look like somebody who is never going to stop, but don't go put those numbers together. You might even surprise yourself when you put those numbers together. And then when you come to a space like this and talk about it, I say, after costing it, it's like a 20 million whatever film. You don't know who's going to say, let's have coffee about it. All right? Now, okay. Sorry, I talked too much on that one, but I really appreciate you for giving us. Let's take maybe one or two more. I'm getting some wrapping it up, signs.
Hello, everyone. I'm Henry Nathan Katongole, nominee for Best Lead Actor in a Feature Film, Uganda Film Festival 2023, The Passenger. All right. Yes, thank you. I am a full-time performing artist, but I major in acting. And my question is, what's your take on the audience engagement towards the industry? From your view of things, I am glad to say that we have different worlds right now. So what's your take on the audience engagement towards the film industry? Okay, thank you.
All right, I'm going to hold that get the next question, and then we're going to pass it out so that we can move on time. So we'll go to you, and then before we come over here, we respond, and then we'll go here, and then we'll close out. Any questions?
Thank you very much. My name is Oscar Chivumbi. I'm a producer and cinematographer. My question is about the guilds, association, and the federations. We don't have any in Uganda right now. But my question goes to you who have been in other countries. Are there federations? Are there these groups in your countries? And if they are there, how do they operate? The roles and their responsibilities? Because it's coming from a point of view that we tend to have groups in Uganda where a few people go and lobby. So once they lobby something and then they tell them, you need to have an association, they run and create something very fast. And then after, they share maybe what they have got, and then the association disappears. So I would like to know, apart from lobbying should come secondary, what are the things that you consider when you're setting up this association or a guild? Thank you very much.
Okay, good. We're going to take the next one. But brother, we had a whole workshop on guilds that I actually ran, because I'm a member of the Screen Actors Guild, and I also advise, countries on how to set this up. And was it yesterday for some? Yeah, but I'm just saying it was but I know, don't go into that argument, because we had a whole session on just guilds, associations. But we'll see what we can do to address your question. Next one, and then we now respond. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. My name is Charles Tiawa. Where I come from, we've talked about culture, but where I come from, when you are this side and you have somebody that side on the table, when you talk, when you're seated, it is disrespect. That's why I got up where I come from. So I am a producer and director. I am the General Secretary of Uganda Film Association. So I appreciated when you took us into the lecture about the film guilds and associations. I was there, and I really enjoyed. We have these structures in Uganda. The way they are functioning, they are struggling to support the industry. They are very much struggling, and that's why we are always into these conversations trying to see how we move forward. So my friend, if you don't know, we have guilds. We have several guilds and associations. I come from the Screen Directors Guild. That's how I came to be the General Secretary of Uganda Film Association. There is the Sound Authors and Engineers Guild. There is the Screen Actors Guild, where he comes from, right? So we have the Producers Association. We have several of them with the Writers Association. Right. So we have several of them, and they are still struggling. And it's because of these associations, actually, that's how the Uganda Film Festival has come growing. It is because of these structures that through those structures we have supported the Uganda Film Festival to grow. So they are there, and we are lobbying. We are lobbying government to come up, like in Kenya. We were in Kenya with Mr. Wase, the CEO of the Film Commission, of Kenya Film Commission. We have we had a lot of engagement when we went to Kalasha. UCC supported us, and we wanted to share how Kenya is doing to the film guilds of Kenya, because Kenya is came up to support the guilds of Kenya, and we were buying that leaf to come and sell it here so that they also support, so that the guilds support the industry. Right. So we have those structures. Madame Mohoho talked about the administration. You have been talking about data collection. That's the thing. But it has become rhetoric. So it has come to like, whenever you work, what is the data? Whenever you work, what is the data? It is the thing that we must have. But to have a data, like the industry you working in, the American film industry,
Right.
it has laws that make sure that data is collected. In Canada, I have studied the Canadian industry, I've studied the American industry, I've studied the Nigerian industry, I've studied the Kenyan industry. The Kenyan industry, like Madam Ho said, the three countries had three laws that looked like the same. The film, the stage play and films act. You like amended it and added the film, because that time when they were made there was no film.
Yeah.
So
You need to wrap up.
Tanzania had it,
Because we gotta.
Uganda had it,
Yeah. Okay.
but the one of Uganda died.
Okay.
The ones of the two countries is moving. Tanzania is using the same law, it added the film on the law, Kenya added the film on that law, and now their industries are functioning. So we are here trying to lobby to achieve the same law so that we move.
Right.
So we cannot get data when you cannot even know what film is produced in Ankole, film is produced somewhere. But when you go to Kenya, when you are producing a film in Kenya, you have the permitting system. That means that Kenya knows how many films are produced in a month, in a year.
Okay.
In Uganda, you cannot know it.
Okay.
So we are trying to make things work up here, and we want your clout to like talk to people like the UCCs, because I don't know, I don't think we have the big voice to please them, but they have a lot to play in the industry, and they have to listen to that conversation.
Okay, appreciate you.
very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So we have a couple of things on the floor. The audience engagement piece was the very first question that was posed to the panel. The role of the guilds and organization, and then your clarifications about data collection and all of that. Let me just comment quickly on the data part. That, as I said during that workshop, that I'm a member, this is my Screen Actors Guild of America card, and I've been a member since 1997. But the thing, like I was telling you guys at our workshop, is, oftentimes we look at all those systems, but remember that it wasn't that way when they were starting out. Oftentimes just some people got together and said, let's do something, and then slowly they began to build. Now, you don't have to go through all the steps that they went to, because we're now in a different era. There's technology, there are ways of getting things done. I hear you, and I understand that we have to rely or ask for support from government structures to help us build some of these things, and that there are no, laws or infrastructure for us to access certain things. But what are we doing with the ones that we can access? Like I gave you guys the example during the workshop. If you and your colleagues in your guild set up a Google form, a one-page Google form, and put it out there on social media and tell Ugandan filmmakers, please, we don't want to take your personal private information, but we just want to start a database. If you're doing a movie, put your title, tell us how many people you're employing. Not everybody will jump on, but I bet you within a year you probably get 100 filmmakers submitting. That's your beginning data. You just start collecting stuff. Now, when you have done something, I remember I said it too, even at the other workshop on the pitch, how to pitch and raise funds. When you come in and show me what you've done and what you are doing on your own, we can now have a serious conversation. But oftentimes when we say we cannot do this because this, we cannot do this because this, just the list of films, over 100 films, I would think, that we were able to look through from this film festival alone. If each of those films had filled out a half-page, one-page Google form request, giving indication of some of the data points that we're talking about. That is data set that you can build on. And then you can say plus minus two, two whatever, degrees of error and all of that. But it is data nonetheless. And if you do that 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, she's been, a jury member for 2 years. This is your second time, right? This is my third time. This is, she's been, she was head juror last time and has been a jury, all of that. So what data set do we have other than the films we've, you know what I mean? But you in the industry, you have access. But you can create data. You can try and collect what you can collect. Even in the American system, I'm a Screen Actors Guild member, but a lot of my colleagues are not, and they could care less. I told you during the workshop, how do you even become a Screen Actors Guild member? You have to have this in a studio film. You have to have lines. You have to speak this. How do you get that? You have to be a member of the Screen Actors Guild. They just send you in circle, like your head is spinning. You don't even know how to get it. So forget about those people. What can we do here? You need data. Collect what you can collect. Begin from what you have and use it. Because if I ask the head of the guilds in Uganda, how many films we are made here? The answer is, I don't know, right? I would rather the person say, I don't know all of it, but what we collected from our survey is 50. You see what I mean? Then we can have a conversation about how can we make that better, right? So I appreciate the effort because I know some of you are in the trenches building this industry, and we're here to support you and cheer you on, and the extent to which you can continue to support that, that's why we're here, and that's why we make time for this conversation. So who wants to take the question on the audience engagement? No? Anna, why don't you?
We can share. No, I just want to mention a couple of things about audience engagement. Definitely there is as we were mentioned before, you need to do your research. And that means that what I've heard in the last few days is the Ugandan people is not actually watching Ugandan films. And they're watching other films from Africa, right? So when that happens, of course I will say there is one issue that is actually audience development. And what I've seen in that some countries actually work is that some institutions starts to push a lot local content in schools, for example. And in terms of if you get a film fund, one of your role as a producer is to show this film in 3 or 5 different schools for, in my case, different regions of my country. So I believe that that's a system that actually can work, and maybe that's an idea that you don't have to wait until an institution maybe does it. Maybe you, as a producer, actor, anything related to the film industry can actually start doing that. But at the same time, you also need to do your research in terms of what is the audience watching today and where. And that's, again, data. That's the key word of this panel, I think. You need to do that research. It's a lot. And we talk about it in the pitching and marketing session, but you need to know your audience, and you need to know and also be honest about your content, because we mentioned before, sometimes we have this idealistic idea that our film has to be, in a theater, in a cinema, but sometimes it's not for that. It's for streaming, it's for YouTube. So I will say that there's those two roles, but actually is also learning about your audience. Why your local audience first is not watching your films? Why your local audience is watching another, African country films? Understanding why. It is the quality, it is the narrative, it is sometimes stereotypes that they think that, for example, we have that in Chile. We have that for so many years. People were saying the quality of Chilean films are bad. The production quality. And actually it wasn't bad. But of course it was bad years ago, but it was 10 years of good quality, and people were still thinking that. And it wasn't until we started with this plan that actually the government was involved to, that showing to young audiences, high school, our content, and they're like, oh, actually the sound is good. Actually, the cinematography is good. And they're doing a good job. And then people started to actually go to cinemas and started to watching films and streaming platforms from our country.
I think she's kind of said what I wanted to say, but so I had a personal experience when I get to a new place. Well, Uganda is not new. My wife is Ugandan, but what I mean is that I always like to talk to taxi drivers everywhere I go. They have the soul of a city or a nation in their hands. And then, that's why, and they seem to talk more freely with people that they feel are not from there. And one of the things I asked, I think Anna was with me, I said, because we were driving and about 4 songs came on. One Nigerian song after another, one Nigerian song after another. So I figured, okay, maybe this guy's playing a CD or something. So I said, is that the radio? He said, yeah, that's the radio. I said, well, that's the radio. And it's one Nigerian song after another. And so I said, do you watch films? He goes, yeah, I do. I said, what films? He goes, Nigerian films. I said, do you watch Ugandan films? I said, not really. So I said, okay, why don't you watch Ugandan films? He says, well, that the story. I'm like, what do you mean the story? So I said, what do you mean the story? He said, yeah, I doesn't really like the stories. He doesn't like, but you're probably right, because I doubt when I've seen some of the movies that you do, I don't think the stories are any different in a way from some of the stories that they're telling in Nollywood, right? Then he mentioned the quality, right? So I think there are 2 things as well. It's changing perception, right? That change in perception involves a lot of things, right? And you also have to build an audience, like she has said. You have to build an audience from ground up. What's worked for Nigeria is the fact that they are proud to consume their content. In fact, Nigerian producers are lucky in the sense that they didn't really need to cultivate a market. They only needed to feed a market. And there's a difference, all right? The market exists. They just needed to feed that market. And the market existed irrespective of their quality, even when the quality was bad, Nigerians were consuming. All right? They would not say they're not going to watch. They might laugh at it, but they will consume it. All right? Now, how do you get there? You need to first of all cultivate, unfortunately for you, and like most other African markets, you somehow need to find a way to get people to take pride in watching their own content. All right? You need to do research. Again, it comes to data. That's the truth. No, but you can assume that because you're Ugandan and you're a storyteller, that people are going to want to watch your adventure story or your love story, but the market might not want to. So you actually have to go back to the basics. You have to do focus groups. And luckily, you do have associations. You have to do focus groups. Understand what people want to watch. And as a creative, it doesn't mean you always have to give them what they want. Because at times, from a creative industry, at times the people actually might not know until they see it. So don't necessarily limit yourself to say, I want to continue to feed these people. Well, it might kill your own creativity. So I'm not saying, but only do what people want to watch. Because at times you might do something that they never thought of. But as an industry, from a monetization point of view, you must have a base that at least you can say, we are feeding a certain economic base that is able to sustain to a certain level the creative industry.
Okay, so we're going to take the last 2, and then that will be it, because we're way past time. So I'm going to have you, and I think it was the gentleman behind you. Yeah, okay, right there.
Thank you. My name is Yakub Hussein Mugemle. I'm a sound engineer, the creative director and producer. I'm happy to be here and I appreciate what you are giving us. Plus the UCC, what they are trying to do. My question is, you know, we are in a country or industry, it's like the survival is for the fittest, fittest, is it? Is it the language, the what? And Madam Hoho gave out a point of like the government works with the group of people, not individuals. But like I said, we're in the industry where survival is the only for the fittest. He has a good story, they have good stories, but in Uganda, you find that it is very easy for someone from outside Uganda to come and do whatever they may need to do. And for a fellow Ugandan here, it becomes hard for them. Like Madam said, we have a lot of stories from Uganda to their border, the smuggling, we have a lot there we can do. But man, just bring out a camera. That's when they will start bringing all the laws, it's government, security, whatever, even the laws you have never heard of. So I'm asking, how can one swim in such a situation where even uniting with the big giants, it is a big story, or it's like you have to go through a big rock.
Yeah,
because
I got you.
You get me?
I got you.
Yeah,
bro.
that's
Okay,
it. Thank you.
So just quickly on what she had told you, we have to professionalize the unions, the guilds, the associations. You have to lobby for these creative economy bills. There are jewels that she has dropped on you today that I don't want us to keep coming back to every time. You can literally walk out of this door if you've been taking notes, and if you can act on one or two of the things you've heard here, we will not be having the same conversation next time. Because the jewels that she just dropped, what she told you about, and you already said you have guilds already, associations moving. How can we professionalize those? What does that mean even? You know, because the things you're talking about are not for individuals, again, like she said. You know, it's for you to now articulate these things and then go into conversations to say, we have a major problem. We cannot film because A, B, C, D. We cannot, it's the we now that is having the conversation and figure out how, you know, these things can be taken care of on a systemic level. But the way it gets done is through the mouthpiece of the film community. And it's only when you have organized yourselves. I said it during the workshop, and these things are not unique to Uganda. I don't want you to think that this is just a Uganda thing. Trust me, go and try and these Nollywood films you're watching. Go. I don't know how many of you will survive filming in Lagos. Trust me, trust me, you got it good. In Uganda, it's not even government. I'm telling you, there are people that own streets. And you set up and you have not gone to have a conversation with them and take care of them before. And anyway, let's not do that. But I'm telling you, it is not a Uganda issue. And we're talking about this, it's not an African issue. We talk about United States like it's painted in gold. There are places I can't even, listen, I was filming in Oakland, right? Finished doing a shoot interior. We moved to do exterior, came back, our laptop was gone. 2 days work, and it was within 5 minutes. It was gone. Guess what? We called the police. They said, was there an injury? No. They said, go online and file a report. This is United States of America. So sometimes we sit and think that it's da-da-da-da-da. Hollywood is selling you Hollywood. For every one of these fantastic movies you see, there are thousands that are bad movies, bombs. It's not rosy out there. You know, so it's not uniquely Ugandan. So when we sit here and talk, we're not talking, and you know, in my workshop, I was saying, when we are here, we're not talking because we know it all and we're trying to, no. We are brothers and sisters, we're sharing with you. But that doesn't, we're not better than you are. Take something we've said here and go do it. I told the girls, identify one thing that you want to be about. Don't try to do 10,000 things. Focus on that, get it done, then add the second thing, add the second thing. But anyway, I can preach forever. Anyway.
Yes, let me add to that. The person who tells you the truth about you is probably your sibling. Here is your sibling. Now, film industry is an extremely difficult industry. And most of the people who are in it, we are in it for passion. There are other places, there are other businesses we could do and make a little bit more money than what we make in film. My brother here has mentioned professionalism. This is what I am saying here in Uganda. There's a lot of, we want this done for us. We want this done for us. What are you doing for yourself? Let me get very candid because I'm always very candid. If you want to be listened to by the authorities, there's a certain demure, there's a certain professionalism of how to present yourself. Which panel has started on time? Which panel has had a full room of people? Let's begin there. So, Ugandans, we also have to pull up our socks. This room, for example, these panels, the topics are so brilliant. The panelists have so much information. Each time we are talking to barely, not even half the room, handful. But your industry needs to grow and you want it to grow. Can you first bring your people? You fill up rooms so that even the next time UCC doesn't hold this panel in this small room. It goes into a university hall because there are 300 of you. Let's begin there. Let's also begin with be on time so that the people who are talking to you can say, these people are so serious, we need to pay attention to them. Let's begin there. So there are certain things we also have to do soul searching and prepare ourselves for. And it is true. It's difficult. I have lost equipment worth like 22 million on a big project on Mnet. Yeah? Producing 75 films, which were producing 4 films a week. Don't ask me how we were doing it. The same industry came and cleared all our equipment. For 2 weeks, we were just into every police station. And they also wanted to be bribed. We told ourselves, these 2 ladies are not going to be defeated. We borrowed, we got free equipment, and in about 8-9 days, we were back in production and completed. And did I say we had even lost wardrobe and everything? We had lost all our editing suits, and all the expensive things in the wardrobes were gone. Where is that drive, the do or die? We were... Every time cameras been taken by the police, bribes being asked for, what do we do? We went to the police commissioner. We need to educate the policemen on film. We did that over years, repeatedly. Now you know what? I personally, when I did my first drama series, Changes, the police opened the armory for me. They simply asked me, how many guns do you need? We will be giving you the guns so long as you dedicate a car and we dedicate a policeman to escort the guns. Do you know right now in Kenya we are allowed to use real policemen and their uniform and their guns on our sets? Yeah? But we didn't get there overnight. When I was called by the police spokesman and I didn't even know a letter had been sent to him, I was grilled like crazy. You know, staring at me straight in the eye. Where do you want guns? Where is this show going to? I didn't go like they're not listening to me. I stood my ground. And I was called with no notice at all. So we also have to fight en masse. Numbers, numbers, numbers. You say you have the guild, you have the association. Now you need a federation of all the associations. Put them all together, then you have the numbers. If in Kenya we can get the cooperation with the police. When I started in the early 2000s producing, it was a totally different game. It can be done. Hear it from your sisters. It can be done, but you need professionalism. We used to just go to the government and we yell at them. We tell, do you even know what is racking focus? How can you even be in charge of film and you don't know about film? We've done those fights. And when we did that, for 3 years, the government refused to talk to us. They said, first go and get tabia, go and get manners. Now we learned how we identify a few of us who can speak and wear a suit and go into a government office and represent us. I remember saying, we have a choice as an industry. We either become like Union, we are standing there with stones ready to throw to the building, or we get a team to represent us. Get even those who have learned a lot about public policy. Get them to sit with the executives of the government in the boardroom. And then you can say, and I've used this term many times in government, I'll be like, you either listen to us or you listen to the ones holding stones outside there. You've got to do it yourself. But professionalism has to be there, and the ability to express yourself with, I have no doubt with what I'm saying. If you have doubt, please fake it. Fake it. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And we're going to take the very last comment and then we're going to close it out. And again, I want to reiterate that there's been a lot that has been shared with you. It comes down to you. We can sit here and say, help us talk to UCC, UCC this. But UCC organized this. They spent time, energy, and money to put this together. How many people showed up? How many people showed up on time? So after this, then you're going to start knocking on UCC and say, we are demanding this. And they will say, we brought people from all over the place, paid money, and you didn't even bother to show up. And you have your guilds and associations. Why was somebody not on the phone last night from the Writers Guild, Actors Guild, Directors Guild, calling your members and say, bro, sis, 9 o'clock. They said it's starting at 9:30. I want all our guild members here at 9 sharp. And then you come in and take one corner of the room and say, we are the guild for us. We are the Writers Guild. And you get up. When one person gets up, everybody gets up and say, we're here. We are the Directors Guild. Do you know what UCC will do next time you call them? They will listen to you. But they're giving you this free food, everything. People didn't even show up. And the few that showed up didn't show up on time. So we have to, like Sis is saying, we got to go back and do better. We got to do better. Because when you do better, then people will, treat you better. And so, we're there, and I applaud you and all of that. And I applaud your role in The Passenger. I'm scared of you, but I'm scared of you right now. I haven't seen that movie. But anyway, so let's close out with you, young brother. Okay.
I first thank God for the gift of life.
Amen.
Then I thank you for the chance you have given me. The problem I'm seeing mostly is about making them money back, to bring money back. When you have done a movie, it has been produced already. Bringing that money back is a very difficult problem here. Because for me, I've done a movie already. It's called Kidnapped. But that movie, I posted it on YouTube. But since I posted it there, maybe it has got like 20 views just. Now, if you look into that, for sure, sometimes you lose hope.
Yeah.
I forgot to say my name. I'm Huzai Falukoda from Chitima to Gadea. We are having a group called the Home Studios. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, and I applaud you. Anybody who is able to make something, make a film, whether it's a short or, deserves congratulations because it's not easy. You know, you are now amongst the few that can say, I'm a filmmaker, I'm a content creator, all right? My advice to you as a young brother is the same thing we've been talking about here. Next time, before you even start making the film, when you have that idea in your head, ask yourself, where am I going to put it? Who is going to see it? Because it helps connect the film you've made to the people, and that's how you make your money. You don't want to finish making a movie and start trying to figure out how am I going to now make the money back. That conversation has to happen even before you start making the movie. And if you are not able to figure it out, find somebody who can, because sometimes you are a filmmaker and you are a filmmaker and you're a filmmaker, but there's a different animal called the film business. And you don't necessarily have to master both, but you have to have the knowledge to be able to ask for help, to ask somebody who knows the business side to say, bro, this is what I'm trying to do, this is the script, da da da. I'm so confused about where it's going to land. Can you help look at it? Again, come back to the guilds, you know, associations. When you are in a community that can support that journey, it starts getting a little bit clearer and a little bit easier. In the meantime, for the work that you've done, you know, yes, you've had 20 viewers, right? But that's 20 more than zero. Go back and find out who those were and why. Why did you get those 20? Because in finding out why, you might find a way to turn the 20 to 40, and then from turning to 40, turn it to 80. Don't assume that because you have only 10, that that's a failure. There's never a failure, all right? It's only a failure when you have not seen the lesson in it, when you have not seen the opportunity in it. Don't approach things from a scarcity mindset, all right? Yes, you would wish that you wake up in the morning and it's 1 million, right? And then you are disappointed. That's a human thing. That's okay. But immediately turn it around. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So you look at the 20 as a deficit, then it's a deficit. You know, you call up and not do anything. But then you say, 20 people bothered to look at my stuff, right? Who are these 20 people? There are 15 of them from United States. Where in the United States are they from? They're from a particular region. Then all of a sudden you find that there are Ugandans there or something. You know what I mean? You never know, but you have to use what you have and then begin to build for what you want. All right? So I would like to thank our able panelists, and like to say a big thanks to UCC for giving us the privilege of being here to share with you. Thank you, and I'll hand it back to our expert here.
Let's give a big applause to our experts. Thank you very much for honestly and candidly sharing with my brothers from Uganda and sisters from Uganda. I intentionally stepped out because if I sit here, some of them may have fear to say what they wanted to say. So, but I was being seated at the back, enjoying the conversation. Secondly, not to get our experts worried. Every year, we have new people joining the sector. And to them, some of the things that are being talked about today may be new to their ears. So in Uganda, this is one of the sector that employs many youths. And every time they join, they find that the expectation is not being quickly met. My brother here shared when he brings out a camera, he gets interference. But we have been telling them there are standards and regulations to be followed if you're to do a film or a shoot. You don't just wake up and say, I'm shooting. So that conversation and that education is continuous. But I'm happy that they were able to share honestly And I'm happy to that we have some veterans in the room who know that there are associations, there are guilds, and I also love the fact that the experts were able to tell you that you have to do soul searching on your own. We plan for 100 and plus people. We are less than 60 or 50. Okay? And now, like they said, we incurred expenses to bring in experts to share with you on how you could improve and explore the opportunities in the film industry. Personally, I'm happy 60 have been able to share. But our expectation was we could have shared with thousands because we are even available online. So let us understand the business we are in. You will have all the filmmaking skills and everything, but if you want to make money out of this sector, you have to understand the film business as a business. And you have to be ready to be educated on the different aspects of the business. So I thank you very much for everyone for reserving time to be here. And I'll end by asking all of us to give a big round of applause to our experts. Thank you very much.
I'd like to appreciate, don't mind.
It's called a vote of thanks.
My name is Usama Adim Sengendo. I'm an actor, a teacher, an artist, a student counselor, and a host of a certain show called, a platform called Enclave Media Hub, mostly emphasizing more on to the film industry and to build up more capacities that people get to know more about movies and their actors. Personally, I would like to recommend or give a vote of thanks to platforms like Cinema UG. Madam, please wave. Yes, such platforms enlightened us more on how we can make the movie industry more better. And that is why even me personally, I came out to have my own platform so that we can move the film industry. As Madam said, you do it yourself. We are doing it ourselves, and through that we are going to make it, with finances or without finances. When you hear her story and when you hear my story, you start up something yourself and personalities will follow you according to what you've done. Whatever they see on your platforms is what is going to make everyone say, yes, I think the movie industry is at this level, so let us support to this kind of level. Then I would also say thank you to UCC for the platforms, because it is easy for them to it's easy to reach out to them, because my organization wanted to come and shoot, because we go on shooting different occasions for filmmaking and all that. So for tomorrow's function, it was easy, by the way, to even reach the director of, I think, Industrial Affairs and Content Development. I just made a call and everything went and they told me, yes, tomorrow you can come and shoot. So the ease in everything is quite important, that someone as low as me, I can reach out to any director and I say, this is possible. And then they say it's possible. So hands up to UCC for even such platforms that they have made for us. And then to appreciate personalities from Kenya, name it, Kenya and the rest of the world, that you have also come here to really give a hand, to give a push to the Ugandan movie industry sectors. The numbers might be low, but the personalities who have come here are going to move and they're going to make the movie industry trend out there. He might be one person, but he has a lot of following. We are a group that has just come up, I think around 3 months, but we have a following on YouTube, around 400 personalities. And on TikTok today we are making, I think we have made 8K personalities. So the trend that you do, the work that you do, the work that you put up is one that is going to make personalities to come and see your work. So you who says you have 20 views, the first video I put up on YouTube did not have views, but I said I'm going to keep on. The marketing strategies that you put up are the ones that are going to make you reach out, the personalities you want to reach out. If your movie, I think, now, if you want marketing strategies, first go to your family. Does your family have 20 people? Tell them that I have made a movie, but in Uganda, we sit down with our movies, we think personalities are going to come and look for those movies. No, we have actors. I studied with him in the same classroom, Nathan. Go and get knowledge out there. Go get knowledge. Maria Mundagire Film and Performing Arts Center is really trending out there. Go get knowledge from there. There is Kampala Academy. There is, name it. You need a platform for you to come out. Cinema UG is there. Enclave Media Hub is there. Go and get them. Tell them, I need a platform for my movie to come out. Cinema UG is there. Talk to her. She's the one. Talk to her. She will move your movie, because that is what they do, and that is what we do. Okay? I appreciate your concern. I appreciate your time. We appreciate your time. I appreciate all of you that have come here today. It's not my time to talk. Thank you very much.